In 336 BC, Philip II is assassinated in front of the entire Macedonian court. In an instant, power changes hands. Alexander is only 20 years old, and the kingdom he inherits is anything but stable. Behind him is a divided dynasty. Around him, powerful, ambitious generals. Ahead of him, a Greece waiting for the right moment to rebel. Philip's death doesn't bring an orderly succession. Alexander has to move fast, eliminate rivals, consolidate power in Macedon, and above all, prove he's more than an heir. Because in the Macedonian world, being born king isn't enough. You have to assert yourself as one. And when Greece tests the new king, Alexander answers with a decision that changes everything. But how does a 20-year-old turn a succession crisis into absolute rule? By 336 BC, Philip is at the height of his power. He has imposed his dominance over most of Greece and is already preparing an expedition against Persia. The celebrations at Aigai, the ancient dynastic capital of the Macedonians, are meant to showcase exactly that: a strong kingdom, a stable dynasty. The occasion is the marriage between Cleopatra, Philip's daughter, and Alexander of Epirus, Olympias's brother. It's a public, solemn ceremony staged before the Macedonian elite and representatives from Greece. Philip steps forward in full view as a ruler without rivals. And that's when Pausanias appears. He's a somatophilax, one of the king's bodyguards. The sources point, first, to a personal vendetta. Pausanias believes he was wronged by the men close to Attalus, one of Philip's leading generals and a central figure in the new faction tied to Cleopatra Eurydice. He accuses the king of denying him justice. But Attalus represents more than a private feud. Philip's new marriage to Cleopatra Eurydice could produce, in the eyes of the court, an heir considered more fully Macedonian. And that heir could threaten Alexander, the son of an Epirot princess. And that tension doesn't come out of nowhere. A few months earlier, at the wedding banquet for Philip and Cleopatra Eurydice, the rift had already exploded in front of the entire court. Attalus raised a toast to the birth of a legitimate heir, openly hinting that Alexander, Olympias's son, might not be legitimate enough. Alexander reacts in anger. Philip, drunk, tries to intervene, but stumbles and falls in front of everyone. It's humiliating, and it makes one thing clear: the succession is no longer certain. Not long after, Olympias leaves the court. Alexander withdraws as well. The dynastic rift is now wide open, and when Philip dies, that simmering tension becomes a real crisis. Ancient writers suspect there was more behind the attack. Olympias' name comes up often. Alexander's far less, and his direct involvement is not proven. Pausanias strikes and tries to flee, but he's killed almost immediately. And that matters. With the assassin dead, many answers die with him. Now the question is, who will take power? Alexander is about 20. He is proclaimed king by the Macedonian assembly and the army. In Macedon, blood helps, but it isn't enough. A king has to be recognized by his own men. Then come the funerals at Aigai, the sacred heart of the Macedonian dynasty, solemnly closing the age of Philip. After the acclamation, Alexander understands one thing immediately: inheriting the throne isn't enough. In Macedon, there is no fully settled dynastic system. he has to prove he's firmly in command and that no challengers remain. One rival is Amyntas IV, son of Perdiccas III, the older brother of Philip II. In theory, he's the last direct representative of the line that could have claimed the throne. The young king has him executed. More complicated is the case of the Licentians, a powerful noble family from Upper Macedonia. Some are dealt with immediately, especially because their names surface among the suspicions surrounding Philip's murder. Alexander of Licentius, however, is spared, at least for the moment, perhaps for political convenience. According to Justin, he was among the first to recognize Alexander as king. Then there's Attalus, one of Philip's leading generals, the uncle of Cleopatra Eurydice, and a man with contacts in Athens. He isn't dangerous only because of his personal prestige. He's dangerous because he could become a rallying point for anyone who wants to reopen the question of succession. And he's already in Asia Minor with a Macedonian advance force. For Alexander, leaving him alive is too great a risk, so Attalus is put to death as well. Olympias moves in parallel. The sources describe her as ruthless toward Cleopatra Eurydice and her young daughter, having them killed. The new reign is consolidated with an internal settling of scores. Once his control in Macedon is secure, the young king turns to Greece. In Thessaly, his opponents try to block his path at Tempe, between Mount Olympus and Mount Ossa. Alexander avoids a head-on clash, takes the army along a tougher route, and appears behind the Thessalian barrier. That maneuver is enough. The Thessalians submit and recognize him as their leader. From there, he moves down toward Thermopylae, the unavoidable gateway into central Greece. Control that corridor, and you control access to the south. Alexander occupies it without needing a major pitched battle, and he immediately strengthens his position in the Panhellenic order. The next stop is Corinth. Here, he's reaffirmed as leader of the League of Corinth, the alliance Philip built to hold together almost all the Greek city-states and lead the war against Persia. Sparta stays out, but the rest of the system holds. By the end of 336 BC, he's no longer only king of Macedon. He's already Philip's political successor in Greece. In 335 BC, Alexander has been king for only a few months, but his rule still isn't secure. To the north and west, raids by the Thracians, the Triballi, and the Illyrians destabilize Macedon. So he launches his first independent campaign with a clear goal: to secure the frontiers. He leaves Amphipolis and marches northeast into territory controlled by Thracian tribes. He faces the Thracians first. The Macedonian army advances with roughly 15,000 to 20,000 men, infantry and cavalry, against tribal groups that are numerous but less organized. They cross the Haemus Range, where the Thracians try to block the pass by pushing wagons down the slope into the Macedonian line. Alexander holds formation, absorbs the impact, and counterattacks. He forces the pass and proves something right away. The new king can fight on rough ground, not only on open plains. Then he turns against the Triballi. He defeats them on the Liginus River and drives his army all the way to the Ister, the great Danube. There he crosses at night, attacks the Geti on the far bank, and forces them to retreat. This isn't just a border raid. It's a show of force beyond the usual limits of Macedonian control. After the fighting on the Ister comes more serious news. To the west, the Illyrians are on the move. the Macedonian army swings towards Pelion, where Alexander faces Cletus, son of Bardylus, and Glaucius of the Talanti. They command larger forces, probably between 20,000 and 30,000 men. It's one of the most dangerous moments of his first campaign. The terrain is against him, a narrow valley ringed by heights held by the enemy. The Macedonians are down on the valley floor with a very real risk of being surrounded and cut off. Alexander doesn't lose control. He keeps his formation tight and maneuvers under pressure, preventing panic. He manages to disengage without breaking up the army, then waits for the right moment. When the enemy disperses, he strikes again. He hits decisively and shatters the coalition. Here you can see what he inherits from his father and what is uniquely his: the same strategic ruthlessness, but even greater speed and a higher appetite for risk. But just as Alexander is winning in the Balkans, in Greece, some people are already starting to believe he's dead.
Did you know that most people who watch our documentaries aren't subscribed yet? If you enjoy animated maps and history, join our community. Leave a like and subscribe so you never miss the next episodes.
While Alexander is still campaigning in Illyria, a persistent rumor spreads through Greece. The new king is dead, or has suffered a crushing defeat. It's the news many have been waiting for. If Alexander can't return, the system Philip imposed could collapse with him. The first to react is Thebes. The city rises up, recalls the exiles, besieges the Macedonian garrison trapped in the Theban citadel, and tries to reignite a broader Greek revolt. The rebellion grows out of three forces coming together: hatred of Macedonian control, the desire to erase the order Philip built, and the conviction that his son has neither the time nor the strength to intervene. In Athens, anti-Macedonian voices reemerge. The city sympathizes with Thebes, listens to Demosthenes, and follows events closely, but hesitates to commit all the way. No one wants to end up on the wrong side if Alexander turns out to be alive. And this is where the young king shows his resolve. From Illyria, he marches south at a speed that shocks the Greek world. He reaches Thessaly in 7 days, and just 6 days later, he's already in Boeotia. The news of his arrival almost outruns his army. Thebes rebelled counting on distance. Alexander erases that advantage. When he appears outside the city, Alexander doesn't attack right away. He brings a force of roughly 30,000 infantry and 3,000 cavalry. The Macedonian corps is 6 taxis of the phalanx, about 9,000 phalangites, supported by light infantry. Inside Thebes, the rebels may be able to muster 12,000 to 15,000 men, but not all are troops of the same quality. And the Macedonian garrison in the Cadmea is still there, besieged, but not defeated. Thebes is still a major city in central Greece, with a population in the tens of thousands, but its alliances are fragile. Athens sympathizes and sends weapons. Sparta moves only as far as the Isthmus of Corinth, and no one manages to turn political support into a real relief army. Alexander knows it, so he offers surrender again, leaves an exit open, and tries to separate the rebels from the rest of the city. At this point, the message is clear. If Thebes is destroyed, it won't be blind impulse. It will be a deliberate calculation. After negotiations fail, the assault begins, perhaps early on Perdiccas' initiative, and quickly turns into a coordinated attack. Macedonian troops press from the outside, while the garrison in the Cadmea moves from within. For Thebes, that means fighting on two fronts at once. When part of the defensive line collapses, the battle spills into the streets and turns into urban combat. From that moment, the revolt is lost. The number the sources repeat most is often stark. More than 6,000 Thebans are killed. The survivors, with few exceptions, are sold into slavery. Much of the city is leveled. Temples and sacred places are spared. Even the house of Pindar, the most famous poet of Thebes, is left standing. It's a striking contrast. Culture and religion are spared, while the city's political life is erased. Alexander is sending a very clear message. Thebes is the first major rebellion against his power. Destroying the city is meant to paralyze the rest of Greece before it even thinks about rising against him. The contrast with Athens is decisive. Athens is not annihilated. Alexander treats it far more cautiously, for the prestige it still holds in the Greek world, for its political usefulness, and above all, for its fleet, which will prove valuable in the war against Persia. At Thebes, he uses terror. With Athens, he uses caution. The effect is immediate. The formal decision on Thebes' fate is put before the Council of the Greeks. Macedonian garrisons remain in key places: Corinth, Chalcis, and the Cadmea itself. The road to Asia is finally open. Thebes burns. Athens backs down. Greece falls silent. Now, Alexander is no longer just Philip's son. He's the man who terrorized Greece, and now he can turn toward Persia. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. In the next video, we'll watch Alexander cross the Hellespont, enter Asia, and begin the war that will turn him into Alexander the Great.